Hello students, teachers, parents, history nerds. Hello everybody and welcome to Nutshelled History, where we lay out the facts, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Today we're going to continue our economics series by looking at demand, supply, and prices. Don't forget that there's a link for a fill-in-the-blank worksheet in the description. I just ask that you like and subscribe. I apologize for any mispronunciations ahead of time. I do my best. Now let's roll. So, demand is basically you wanting or needing that thing, like pizza, and actually having the cash to get it. Here's how it works. If pizza slices go on sale from $3 to $2, you're probably going to be like, heck yeah, I'm getting more pizza. But if the price shoots up to $4 a slice, suddenly you're rethinking your life choices and maybe opting for ramen instead. That's the law of demand and the substitution effect combined. I'm on the production possibilities frontier today, guys. Economists, being fancy, track this stuff with a demand schedule, a table of pizza dreams versus pizza reality, and a demand curve, a graph that says, see, I told you pizza gets more popular when it's cheaper. The demand curve always goes down and to the right. Now there are two key effects behind your pizza decisions. First, the substitution effect. If pizza gets pricey, you'll substitute it with something else, like burgers, or if pizza gets cheap, you might dump the burgers and live the cheesy life instead. Second, there's the income effect. If pizza and everything else suddenly become more expensive, your wallet might cry a little and you'll just cut back on pizza altogether. No substitutions, just fewer pizzas. Sad but true. Economics in a slice. Also, if you start making more money, your ability to get slices increases, so your demand for those slices goes down. Unfortunately, it's summer break for me, so I can't get much pie. The law of demand is like a rule that says if the price goes up, demand goes down, assuming everything else stays chill. But life is rarely that simple, and there are plenty of other things that can mess with demand. These are called non-price determinants, or basically all the stuff that messes with economists' neat little charts. Take the weather, for example. If it's blazing hot outside, fewer people will want to eat a steaming hot pizza, even if it's cheap. This is called a demand shift, where the whole demand curve gets nudged left or right because people collectively decide, no thanks, pizza. There are tons of things that can make the demand curve do a little dance. For one, if people suddenly have more money in their pockets, they'll buy more stuff at every price level, because why not? On the flip side, if everyone's broke, demand drops faster than your Wi-Fi during a Zoom call. Demographics also play a part. As the population ages, people are more likely to demand medical care than, say, skateboards. And let's not forget the power of advertising and fashion trends. Sometimes people just need the latest gadget or style, and boom, demand shifts. Also, demand for one thing can affect demand for another. Compliments are like besties. If you buy skis, you're probably getting ski boots too. Substitutes are like frenemies. If you buy a snowboard, you're probably skipping the skis altogether. So when demand for one shifts, it drags its buddy or rival along for the ride. A good way to remember all these things that can shift your cute little demand curve and ruin ceteris paribus is an acronym, PNET. P is for price of related goods, I is for income, N is for number of buyers, E is for expectations of the future, T is for taste and preferences. Okay, so demand doesn't usually change at the same rate. Elasticity of demand is economists speak for how flexible or not you are when prices change. If you keep buying something, no matter how much the price goes up, your demand is inelastic. Basically, you're loyal to that product like it's your best friend. But if a small price hike makes you suddenly act like it's the worst thing ever, your demand is elastic. You're ready to ditch it for the next best deal. Inelastic demand happens with stuff you need like medicine or milk because, well, you can't really skip those. Elastic demand? That's usually for the fancy things, like the extra glittery, gold-plated version of whatever you don't actually need but really, really want. Economists have a formula to calculate elasticity of demand, which is basically just some math to figure out how much you freak out over price changes. If your reaction is chill, less than 1-to-1 ratio, demand is inelastic. But if you lose your cool and demand drops hard, more than 1-to-1 ratio, then it's elastic. Why do we care? Consumers don't. But for business owners, understanding elasticity is like having a crystal ball for profits. If demand is elastic, raising prices could scare off customers and shrink total revenue faster than you can say bad decision. But if demand is inelastic, they might be able to raise prices without losing sales, leading to more cash in their pocket. Economics, where math meets shopping psychology. Okay, let's not forget demand's good buddy. Supply is basically how much stuff businesses are willing to throw at you. If prices go up, companies are like, hey, let's make more of that, and new businesses might jump in to get a piece of the action. This is called the law of supply, which says higher price equals more stuff for sale. But when prices drop, companies are like, nah, we're not making as much of that. Economists, in their usual chart-loving way, keep track of this with supply schedules, fancy tables, and supply curves, fancier graphs. For example, if you want to see how much pizza would be supplied at different prices, a supply curve will show that as prices rise, more pizza gets made. And because of this price-supply relationship, the curve always slopes up from left to right. It's like a visual reminder that money talks. Now, elasticity of supply is how fast businesses can respond to price changes. Some industries are stuck with inelastic supply, like orange growers, who can't just magically grow more oranges overnight. But other industries, like barbershops, have elastic supply. If haircuts suddenly become the hottest trend, barbershops can quickly add more chairs and extend hours to cash in on the buzz. Supply where the market meets the hustle. So to be Captain Obvious, all that supply isn't free to supply. Economists like to break down business costs into two categories: fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are the bills that show up no matter what. Think rent or that expensive machine the company bought, which isn't going anywhere. Variable costs, on the other hand, are like that friend who only shows up when it's convenient. These costs rise or fall depending on how much stuff the business is making, like raw materials or extra labor. Add these two types together and you get total cost, the bill that no one's happy about. To make more stuff, businesses can hire more workers or buy more machines. The extra stuff produced by hiring one more worker is called the marginal product of labor. At first, adding new workers usually helps and makes everyone more productive. Hooray for teamwork and specialization. But eventually, the workplace gets too crowded and people start tripping over each other. This is when businesses experience diminishing marginal returns. And if things get really chaotic, adding more workers can actually make things worse, leading to negative returns. Think, too many cooks in the kitchen setting everything on fire. Now, marginal cost is what it takes to produce one more unit of whatever the business is selling, while marginal revenue is how much money they'll make from selling that extra unit. If marginal revenue is higher than marginal cost, the business will happily crank out more stuff because, hey, profit. But if marginal cost creeps higher than marginal revenue, it's time to pump the brakes, or they'll start losing money. Profits hit their sweet spot when marginal cost equals marginal revenue, which is like the business equivalent of finding the perfect balance between work and Netflix. The law of supply says that when prices go up, so does supply, as long as nothing else changes. But of course, just like with good buddy demand, everything changes. Non-price factors love to mess with supply. For example, if the cost of raw materials, machines, or labor goes up, the supply at all price levels goes down because making stuff just got pricier. Governments love to get involved and cause these shifts. A subsidy is like a cash bonus from the government to businesses, making it cheaper for them to produce more, so supply increases. On the flip side, excise taxes, basically a government no-fun tax on making or selling stuff, raise production costs and decrease supply. Regulations are like the government's way of saying, follow these rules, which can also mess with supply. And don't forget producer expectations. If sellers think prices will go up in the future, they'll hoard their goods now and sell them later, like playing a long game of who wants to be a millionaire. But if they expect prices to drop, they'll dump their goods on the market faster than a fire sale. Okay, supply and demand are buddies, so of course they interact. Market equilibrium is that magical moment when supply and demand high-five each other. It's the perfect price where buyers want exactly as much of something as sellers are willing to sell. On a graph, it's where the supply and demand curves meet for coffee and discuss weekend plans. But markets don't always play nice. When things get out of whack, we call it disequilibrium. If there's more demand than supply, you've got a shortage, which is basically a seller's dream. Prices start to rise because buyers are desperate, and eventually, things calm down as supply catches up to demand. On the flip side, if there's more supply than demand, we have a surplus. Sellers start dropping prices faster than an end-of-season sale, trying to offload their goods until equilibrium is restored. Enter the government, trying to control the fun. Sometimes they set a price ceiling, like capping how much landlords can charge for rent. Sounds good, right? But if the ceiling is lower than the equilibrium price, it creates a shortage. Good luck finding an apartment. Other times, the government sets a price floor, like the minimum wage. If the floor is higher than the market rate, you might end up with a surplus of workers, aka more people looking for jobs than there are jobs available. Free markets are like those people who always try to find balance in life. They're constantly seeking equilibrium. If prices are too high or too low, market forces swoop in to nudge them back in line until supply and demand are in perfect harmony again. But when something big changes, like a whole supply or demand curve shifting, the market has to find a new sweet spot. Take technology, for example. When digital cameras first came out, they were super expensive. Then, tech got better, and suddenly, making cameras became cheaper. Supply shot up because producers could crank out more cameras at all prices. But too many cameras. This led to a surplus, so producers started dropping prices like it was Black Friday, and eventually, the market found a new equilibrium. On the flip side, demand shifts can happen when everyone suddenly goes wild for the latest fad, like a hot new toy. The demand curve shifts, meaning people are willing to pay more for that toy at every price. Suddenly, there's not enough supply to meet the hype, creating a shortage. Producers jack up prices and start making more toys until the market chills out and finds a new equilibrium, right before the next fad kicks in. In a free market, prices are like the ultimate gossip. They tell buyers and sellers what's going on. High prices scream, "Make more of this stuff," while low prices whisper, "Cut back or get out, buddy." For buyers, a bargain is a green light to go wild, but a high price is a red flag saying, "Think long and hard before you splurge." Prices are also the market's quick change artists. They can adjust faster than you can say supply shock. For example, if a disaster wipes out a crop, prices can skyrocket immediately to curb the frenzied buying, even if the supply can't bounce back right away. But not everyone's a fan of this price party. Some folks use rationing, which is like a strict parent telling you how much you can have of something and not letting you choose. Rationing leads to a dull assortment of goods and sneaky black markets where people trade stuff on the down low. Prices can also flop in markets where there's little competition or buyers and sellers are in the dark. And don't get me started on negative externalities, like pollution, which are like hidden fees nobody's paying for, but everyone's suffering from. It's like the market's dirty little secret that doesn't show up on the price tag. And finally, it's time to recap. Demand is all about how much you want something, like pizza, and if you have the cash to get it. If pizza drops to $2 a slice, you'll probably go on a pizza spree, but if it skyrockets to $4, you might just settle for ramen. This is the law of demand at work, influenced by the substitution effect, choosing burgers over expensive pizza, and the income effect, cutting back on pizza when everything costs more. Economists track these whims with a demand schedule and a demand curve, which shows that cheaper prices mean more pizza love. Supply refers to how much of a product businesses are willing to offer, which increases with higher prices and decreases when prices drop. Economists use supply schedules and curves to track this relationship, noting that higher prices generally lead to more supply. Elasticity of supply varies by industry, with fixed and variable costs impacting production levels, while non-price factors like input costs or government policies can shift the supply curve. Now, prices aren't always perfect. They adjust quickly to market changes like supply shocks or shifts caused by trends or tech advances. Rationing and government interventions like price ceilings and floors can mess things up too, creating shortages or surpluses. In the end, markets are like a never-ending dance, always seeking that sweet spot where supply and demand do a perfect high five. There you have it, folks. That is demand, supply, and prices nutshelled. Well, kind of. Thanks for stopping by Nutshelled History. I demand that you supply me with likes and subscribes. Will there be a surplus? Let me know in the comments down below. See y'all next time on Nutshelled History.